And the author of Requiem for the Author of Frankenstein, who joins us in studio, is Molly Dwyer. Thank you for joining us. The American Revolution was about 30 years old. Europe was raging in endless war, the French Revolution having given way to Napoleon and his wars. And it is into this time that a girl is born in England to two radical, progressive intellectuals. And her life is as charged with drama and action as is her time. Through her father's work in publishing, she meets many of that burst of writers later academics came to call the Romantics, whose writing was a passionate call to freedom, truth, and peace. Blake, Coleridge, Keats, Wordsworth, Byron, Shelley. At 15, she ran away from home to become the mistress of Percy Bysshe Shelley, whom she later married, and by whom she had 4 children, only one of whom survived childhood. She reportedly had an affair with George Gordon Lord Byron, Shelley's closest comrade. She survived them both and became the foremost keeper of their legacies. Her own writing produced the novels and essays, foremost among them Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, published when she was 20. Thank you for joining us.
It's a great privilege to be here.
It's a fascinating technique that you use to do all this.
I'm really interested in consciousness. There's 2 levels at which I was engaged here. One is the story of Mary Shelley, which is totally compelling to me. And then the other was this whole question of what is consciousness capable of? What kind of relationships can we have with the past? I find those discussions of the nature of our existence to be really nourishing. What I tapped into is that when characters of this nature are so huge that the imprint they leave, if you will, on the collective consciousness, that what Jung calls the collective consciousness is, I believe it's accessible, it's tappable, and that somehow I tapped up against it and it met me in the same way Goethe talks about it, how things will meet you if you begin the creative process, synchronicity. It's been very controversial to consider Mary Shelley a romantic, and only, I would say, in maybe the last 10 years, last decade or so, is that title beginning to stick. Before that, she was the author of a Gothic novel that, was not really part of the canon. It wasn't really considered good literature.
This is such a stimulating read. It just sets all your brain cells to firing. And I want to know why you start this book with a public hanging in London.
Yeah. I don't know that Mary Shelley really went there, but I put her there, and I imagine what it would have been like for her to see it. And part of the reason I put her there is I thought, she creates a hanging in Frankenstein that's very realistic. She's got a real sense of the crowd, and I thought it's likely. It's not unbelievable to me that she had that experience inside of her, that she knew something of what that was like to watch a hanging.
These people were just outside, just total bohemian artistes types. And so let's go there. This chapter is entitled Ménage à Trois. Mary felt shy. I'm reading from Requiem for the Author of Frankenstein, written by Molly Dwyer, and Molly's our guest here in studio. Mary felt shy. She was stumbling into this love all too quickly, as if there was never really time to know the slender, blue-eyed man well enough to hold court comfortably with his dreams. He came and went in ways she hadn't anticipated, drifting into cloud banks, his eyes soft with wonder, distance. Her presence seemed to pale beside the groves of walnut, chestnut, and oak, their scarlet leaves already heralding the coming autumn. The rocks called him, the unbounded forests of pine. He scanned the skies in search of eagles. He waited on deer and elk. He picked up stones and stopped to stare eagerly at the ferns, poking courageously out of the granite. I love the way the earth meets the water with stone and with plants, he said, delighted with himself, and the air, and how they all blend to one. And often he didn't finish his thoughts, having already rushed on. Endings were irrelevant. Very. And that's what many people think of when they think of romantic.
Well,
but
I think
there's more to it.
Yeah, there's much more to Shelley than that, but I do think that was part of him. I do think that that's the way, that is one of the places where he really enjoyed hanging out, if you will, in that space of wonder. He was also a political activist, and he had, I guess, practically put in jail for sedition. He was sent down, as they say in England, from Oxford for publishing a pamphlet that said you had a right to be an atheist. He would, and actually what they got him on was lying, because they didn't throw him out for publishing, saying you had a right to be an atheist. They threw him out for denying it. Does that sound familiar?